Welcome to the scene, it's your host TTP. We're flying high in the crypto sky, you and me. From Bitcoin rush to Ethereum, we traded all the coins. With the trading parity making that joyful noise. We got bots, we got plots, charts on the big screen. 3 comments to Wick Hunter, we're the trading machine. Laughing all the way to the bank, it's a fun parade. With every trade we made, watch how we get paid. TTP's got the formula, flipping coins like a spatula. In the crypto game, with the vernacular, spectacular. From the morning to the night, we're streaming with the light, trying to trading parallel. We'll teach you how to fight. Dive into the charts, the RSI, liquidity at a glance, trends on the rise. We never leave it up to chance. All trading Ganium, tools of the champion breed. With AI and math, we're planting the money seed. Laugh with us, trade with us, ain't no looking back. You're with the parrot now, leading the pack. Alpha profits, snap plus with the crypto law. TTP's on the mic and he's ready to soar. TTP's on the mic and he's ready to soar. TTP's got the formula, flipping coins like a spatula. In the crypto game with a vernacular, spectacular. From the morning to the night, we're streaming with the light. Join the trading parallel. We'll teach you how to fight. Dive into the charts.
Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. Tomorrow is the Crypto Summit on Friday, and I'm wondering myself probably the same question that you have and many people have. Is this just another pump and dump? And for that, I have brought a special guest. Keith is here with me. How are you doing, Keith?
I'm good. I'm still smiling from the intro.
Yeah, there's a love and hate with that song.
I want to see the band performing live behind you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like those chaps. They are incredible. You just write a prompt and they can play anything that you want, really.
Very good. Very good.
How's the week looking for you on Bitcoin? How are you feeling? Do you feel a little bit like there's more manipulation incoming, or do we have something strong with the Crypto Summit, in your opinion?
I think we probably only have at least 4 more years of manipulation coming. Potentially 8 if he gets reelected.
Sounds promising.
As traders, we love it. Investors don't love it so much, but as traders, we love it. And so there are certainly opportunities there. And some of these statements that move the market, it's pretty easy to interpret how the market's going to move. Mm-hmm. And so if you're interested in trading that volatility, then those opportunities are there. And if you're not interested in that volatility and the noise that comes out of various sources, including, the platform formerly known as crypto Twitter, whatever we want to call it now, and the administration and the administration's family, then you can look at the technicals on the charts, and the technicals and the liquidity in the order book still tell the real story.
Yeah. And let me introduce Keith. So Keith uses material indicators. He is part of the founding team, and correct me if I'm wrong in anything I'm saying, but material indicators offers fire charts, and he's been there since the beginning. And guys, I use fire charts to look at the order book. Whenever we do this surgery to the order book, we use that's one of the crucial components when we look into what the hell is going on under the hood. And I think I'm very glad to have you today, because if we are talking about manipulation, what do you see at the moment in the order book? What's there? Do we have enough support? Are there any spoofing or things not looking like the rally is going to be sustainable? Because ideally, I would like to answer the question if the rally is going to survive tomorrow, or if we are a strong signals that is just a sell the news, and you need to be with the finger right there in the mouth, ready to sell as soon as you can. I mean, let me know in the comments as well. By the way, guys, we want to know what you think as well.
And I think we have a few potential catalysts tomorrow.
Yep.
And one coming in the morning U.S. time, which is the non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate data,
Yep.
which always seems to be a catalyst for at least a knee-jerk reaction. And it's worth noting that I don't think that any, or at least not many, of the federal workers that have been, have lost their jobs. I don't think that shows up on the unemployment data just yet.
Mm.
In the U.S., you need to be unemployed, and your severance needs to run out. So I don't know what kind of severance packages those people got, if any. I imagine that there were some, but you need to be unemployed, no severance for, I think, 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I believe it's 3 weeks,
Mhm.
until you can register for benefits, and then at that point, show up on any of this data that comes out every month. And so I think, if anybody just got cold hard cut and doesn't have benefit a severance, we know that lots of people were offered a package to resign and take 8 months of severance. So those people will never show up unless their 8 months runs out and they still don't have work. And then a lot of these people with that time frame are going to find work within that the time period that their severance runs out, and when they would potentially qualify to file for unemployment. So it remains to be seen what kind of impact all of those federal layoffs have on the unemployment rate. But we know, at least my opinion is that the administration is doing these things in part to force the Fed's hand to cut rates, because he was calling for rate
Mm.
cuts before he even took office, and he demanded rate cuts before he took office. And Fed Chair Powell said, "We don't answer to any branch. Well, we answer to Congress. We don't answer to the executive branch." And so the Fed has been autonomous. And so, you know, he's he, the president knows that if unemployment spikes, that's a reason for them to cut rates. And he knows that if inflation spikes, that's a reason to use their tools. So I think we have that going on. In addition to that, we know that we have they called it a leak, but it was staged. That there's going to be an announcement of potentially a plan to eliminate capital gains tax on U.S. based
Yeah.
crypto projects. I'm not sure if that includes Bitcoin or not in that proposal, and obviously there's benefits. It's a 1 year, as I understand it, no capital gains on anything held longer than a year. So that's basically long-term capital gains tax, which equates to somewhere between 0 and 20%, depending on what your tax bracket is. That's significant. I can tell you that, in the past, short-term capital gains have been brutal on us.
Yep.
This isn't going to have an impact on short-term gains. So if you're day trading, it's not going to help you.
Mm.
You are investing for the long haul, it's going to bring a lot of money into crypto, especially now. Where I think they could run into trouble is, that's obviously something that has to get approved by Congress. And could they, or would they consider doing that with equities as well? Right? If they do it with equities as well, maybe there's not a mad rush to crypto. If it is exclusive to crypto, then there's going to be a lot of money rotating into crypto.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about the real world assets crypto? Well, that's kind of in between, right?
And are you speaking of real world assets? Or are you speaking of this whatever this fund is now going to be called, of a crypto reserve?
I'm talking about assets like, for example, stocks that they tokenize,
Right.
and then you can hold as crypto. So it's
Yeah, I
indeed it's
just
a
actually
stock,
read
but it's also crypto.
I just saw a headline today about Coinbase potentially doing that with coin,
Hmm.
which could open the door. Now, I've always
Yeah.
wondered how come, why does Robinhood offer stock trading and cryptos trading on one platform and Coinbase does not? That would be a game changer because there are not many platforms and certainly not many trustworthy ones. Um, uh, I was on Robinhood when I first started, and because I like the ability to, on the weekend flip my money into crypto trading versus stock trading on Monday through Friday, and I just didn't like I didn't like the platform. I didn't like the premium I was paying, and I didn't like that there were no stop losses available. And so it was just it was not for me. And the more that I see out of that platform, I mean, they are offering some very compelling products, um, but I don't know. I'm a very very cautious trader, um,
Yep.
and so I've been burned by counterparty risk one too many times, and so I'm just reluctant to go over there. I'm reluctant to go back
Hmm.
to Robinhood. And so, am I getting the best deals available in the market on Coinbase? Maybe not, but I have the most comfort and confidence in keeping my money there.
Yeah. I sense that that's kind of the feeling from many people in the US at the moment. Like
Well, they're the
Coinbase.
only publicly traded, the biggest difference, okay? And other platforms may be great, um, but they are publicly traded. So there's a level of transparency with Coinbase that doesn't exist on any of the other platforms. And sure, can they smoke and mirrors and can they can they make the data look however they want? Yes, they can. But at the end of the day, there is some FDIC insurance on USD over there. Um, there is some yield on USDC over there, which is great because I don't have to stake that USDC. I'm just in fact, it can be in an open in a in a limit order waiting to get filled, and I'm still earning yield on it. So um, I like that part about Coinbase. Um, but like all these platforms, it's evolved and it will continue to evolve. So I hope it gets um,
Should we have a look at how the price action is looking for tomorrow? Um, I can kickstart unless you have something ready. I can
sure.
see you
Well,
have something in the screen already.
the last thing you mentioned was
The summit.
the
Yep.
summit happening tomorrow, and so I think it's great that that's happening. And it will be interesting to see what comes out of it because that there are the controversy really the biggest controversy isn't around whether there should be a Bitcoin reserve. It's whether or not it will be all of this other basket of assets in there that seem to have some relationship to some of the people involved.
Hmm.
That part's a little sketchy.
Yep. Yep. I'm currently showing your screen. Um,
Yeah, I'm just seeing a comment that says Coinbase does not always hit stop losses, which is criminal in itself. Guess what? No stop losses always hit, right? In any platform, the order can rip right through your stop loss without ever stopping, right? Stop loss typically turns into a market order, and we know what happens with market orders.
yep. Yep.
So yes, you asked about manipulation. We've seen plenty of manipulation here in the past few weeks, and we've seen some major rug pulls. We had a lot of liquidity in place, which then got pulled. This is a weekly chart here, so I'm not showing a super wide view, but this is what's relevant right now. And so, you can see some stair stepping of bid liquidity here, which has helped push price up. And these guys were not really chasing price. They were pushing price. I call this liquidity herding, right? So they weren't really chasing price to try and get filled. They were pushing price up. And In some cases, they do get hit, but they typically pull. Maybe a little bit gets hit, and then they pull the remainder. Yesterday, interestingly, we saw. Let me get a refresh on this. We saw some bids pulled, but it looked like they actually converted into market orders, which is what kept price elevated. So what I'm looking at now, and let me just adjust the filtering here so we can bring in the contrast. So we had this rejection from up here, which is kind of around the 21-week moving average. I posted something on that this morning where we had this, we have a recent death cross and a rejection from the 21 day moving average, which is, a level we've got to reclaim all of these levels before we can get back up into this game. Right. So just kind of looking at this as an expanded range right now. And we're now obviously in this lower end of this range. So we'll go back to that here in a second, but this is kind of the baseline of, trend line, 200-day moving average, 21-day for resistance up above. And then most importantly, this 2025 open, which is around 93K and change. So on fire charts, we can see that there's some confluence between where those key resistance and support levels are and where the liquidity is concentrated here, right? We've got strong resistance up here above that 21 day moving average, all the way through where that 2025 open is right here in this, 93, mid 93 level. So this is kind of holding us down from there. And then obviously as things move up to that prior range, to flip back up above that 95, 96 level is going to, as you can see, we're headed into another support test here. This is only 8.5 million. And this is on Binance. This is spot Binance. And you can see that the bids have moved up to try and defend price. Well, now it's about to get filled. So we're going to see if this actually gets filled here. If we watch this, boom, and you just saw that big dump, and look what happened. They're fortifying this level. It just in real time in front of our eyes just turned into 13 million. So they're trying to defend this level right here.
Yep. And those are all the sizes of wallets. It's not just the orange ones, which tend
Right.
to...
So we won't call it wallets. We'll call it order sizes, because
Yeah.
a wallet could be,
I'm abusing the wallet name.
a billionaire could be, using small wallet sizes. And we do see a lot of instances, especially lately, where the smaller order class, this yellow order class down here, there's been quite a few times where it's been TWAPing large volume in a short amount of time. So that's typically not retail doing that, obviously, right? Retail's not spitting out $10 million in an hour in market orders. So that happens from time to time, and we see that happening here.
Oh, yeah.
They just dumped through it. Look, they just dumped through it. So now where do we go? We go to, my guess is, the next support levels, which are down here. Obviously, we have this 86K level, which is the bottom of this consolidation range. Let me turn off trend precognition and make it a little cleaner for us. We had very little consolidation in this range when we marked it, and the whole way up. This is what I labeled the Trump pump. Election day was November 5th, right here. That's when we broke this 2021 top, finally, right, and sustainably broke this top, rallied up. And the whole way I was saying, we got to have some consolidation someplace, because when price comes back down, and it will eventually come back down, whether it's on a retest or whether it's in a bear market, it's going to come back down, and there's got to be someplace for it to land. And it continued to progress up. So we had a little bit of consolidation here. But to be honest with you, I was surprised to see us, flip this 91.5 level. And we had so many retests up here. This really felt like a validated move until, this was tariff talk that broke things down, I believe. And then, of course, what happened last weekend, there was another tariff announcement, and then, it was the monthly close, We had a tariff announcement. Price bottomed. We got almost to the, within a hair of the trend line. And there was a CME gap in here and I'm not a gap trader, so I get a lot of flack of like, why are you still showing the CME gap? Well, a lot of people trade the gap. And this one was interesting to me because of the fact that it had confluence with the trend line. And the fact that it didn't quite get filled all the way makes me think there's a chance that we still go back and get it. And so, I laddered my way into this. I've been front run enough times that I've started really dollar cost averaging my way into these zones, especially, ones that I really want to buy. So I did get a few orders filled here, but that one last order here at the bottom did not get filled, and it's still waiting. Just in case.
Good for you that you have multiple orders, because I went to sleep and I was not thinking, oh, I need to put my order. I think I explained in one of the videos. I was intending to put an order there, and it happened. It's not the first time that I forget to put an order. I have so much in my head, but now I do have one there, and it makes me feel stupid because if you move the chart now into weekly, if you can transition to weekly, you see these 2 weeks to the downside information, right? And if we compare the 3 previous ranges of the whole bull market of, starting from 2022 up until now, you're going to see that every time that we move on to the next level up, we usually kind of go down, give a kiss to the previous level,
right,
and say goodbye, and then we start shooting back up.
And we never got that here, right? And so
not perfect, because for that we need to go to 73.5. But there's some people arguing that if we get these 2 weeks with a week down, that kind of is like a double confirmation. But actually, we haven't gone that low. We went just to 78. So
right. So I think, and there's, it would be textbook if this was the support test right here to the line, as it was a retest here on the 200-day, slightly, overshot, but that happens. And we're up. But we know, we've been in this long enough that textbook doesn't happen a lot anymore, right?
Yeah.
It is fake outs and shakeouts. And so I think that there's a chance, I would like to see this trend line hold. However, there's a compelling argument for going down to potentially this 75, 76K level, and potentially even down to the 2021 top, 69K. And if you remember, before we crossed that, everybody was saying 70K. 69 was really the technical level for me because of the fact that it was the 2021 top, and we had so many rejections, so many fake outs. I mean, we spent years below that level until we finally broke it. And so that would be the full retrace. And I don't know if you recall, before the election, I said, depending on who wins the election, there's going to be some drama. There's going to be some volatility either way. If Trump wins, we're going to likely see price pump, and then it's going to pull back, and there'll be a partial, at least, there will be a correction. It will consolidate and then go back to its normal trajectory. Likewise, if Harris had won, we would have probably seen price dump, and then it would normalize, stabilize, consolidate, and move back to its prior trajectory. If we were to get the full retrace, I mean, literally right back to this range, it would completely retrace the Trump pump. It would and put us right back on the trajectory that we were on before, all of the election noise came into the market.
You are reminding me that I've been wrong all this time, and no one has called me off for that, because I kept saying that this move into 94,900, I published that target, and I talk about it when we were at 70 something. And we went straight into that. And people were saying, but why are you getting political? And I wasn't getting political. I was just thinking that every time that we go up, thanks to Trump saying something bullish, we come back down to the same level we came from. And actually, then that is not accurate. It's not 100% accurate, because I was stating that we have 100% performance on that alpha. But actually, the leaving the megaphone pattern, the election day that you were showing, I think is on November,
November
if
5th.
November 5th.
And that's and look, that's exactly where we finally broke that 2021 top and
Yeah,
started to rocket up.
yeah,
Like, we knew that this wasn't going to be sustainable. We knew that there was going to be an eventual retrace to here, right? Somewhere in this range, whether it was here or here, had to happen. Had to, right? It took longer than expected, but it had to happen. What I think is maybe the best illustration of how the market is starting to get wise to this game that they're playing is this right here. I mean, look at this. I mean, this was a 100% retrace of talking about, you know, of basically Eric Trump running his mouth. You know, we get the pump. You know, he says there's or you know, first Eric Trump said, you know, buy the dip, and then Donald came back and said something about a crypto reserve. And this was not new news, by the way, right? We'd known
yeah,
this.
yeah,
This is just a restatement, a recycling of a previous statement. Why? And why would he do that? Well, we know exactly why they do that, because they bought the dip and they wanted the pump. And the market came back on Monday and said, well, this is one of two things. Either F you, or those ETFs didn't want to get left behind, so they wanted to dump it and get back into this great, you know, flash sale that the market had.
yeah, yeah. It's true. I want to show you some confluence with those levels that you're showing of
Sure.
resistance. Let me share my screen, because I'm sure people are getting a little bit stressed with this retracement. Some people were commenting, we are dumping. I don't think we are dumping, but this morning or last night, I don't remember everything, but I remember I said that 92.5 was resistance. And let me remember, I think I say it on the daily time frame. Yeah, that was on the RSI 50. So we have this trend line in here in yellow. And we have been testing that RSI 50. And I think we are kind of reserving the breakout, the chances for that breakout, depending on how we go on Friday for the crypto summit and how we land there together with the general markets. So, for example, if from today to tomorrow Trump says anything negative or perceived negative in when it comes to the tariffs, it's going to spoil the whole crypto summit. So, I'm sure that Eric or someone or Elon is going to tell him, please, if you have to say anything about the tariffs, just don't do it on Friday, because you're going to spoil
No,
the party.
it's funny. We, you know, in our Telegram community, we've come to the conclusion that Fridays lately, like I think the last 3 or 4 Fridays, have been a
Yeah.
dump day on news.
Yeah.
And so maybe this one will be a pump day. Who knows? But you know, I think that
Well, that's actually what I wanted to discuss with you. I wanted to know your opinion, because I'm sensing that in Twitter, there's kind of a unanimous bearish perception of Friday. Everybody's like, yeah, that's the crypto summit, but not really. You know, we've been rug pulled so many times that we are not going to trust this one.
but the summit is like, it's not like they're going to have any policy at that point. Anything that's been voted on or approved,
No.
it's just going to be, you know, um, they may tell us what they want to do,
Yeah.
uh, or may just recycle old news. Um, you know, I like the fact that there are some voices in the room that will question the the XRPs and the ADA, et
Oh
cetera.
yeah.
But I
Oh,
don't think any of that is going to get those out of that basket. It might minimize them in the basket, but I don't know that, you know, because of the people involved and the money that's been flowing around to get those in there to begin with. And that's, listen, that's a bit speculative on my part, but I mean, obviously, you don't get a meeting with the president or president elect prior to his making it to office um, with with just a pitch deck. So this is not your average deal, I'm sure.
yeah.
Uh, but you know, I think that the potential announcement that they're going to you know, eliminate capital gains on long term
Yeah.
could be a sell the news event at that point because the rumor's already been floating for a week and we already pumped on it.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that the summit, who knows, you know, maybe we get some news that comes out on Friday and it's great and the market loves it and we see it pump, but guess what's going to happen by the, you know, through the weekend?
Yeah.
The illiquidity will get exploited. All right. It's just, it's the way it works. So for me, it comes down to what my conviction is for the market, the
Hmm.
broader market. I still think the bull is very much intact because of, you know, the fact that all of those, you know, those levels are still in play, because of the fact that the, you know, the trend line is, you know, still not been breached. And even if it is, I'm willing to consider even the 2021 top as my line in the sand, with one caveat to that, and this is something I actually wanted to ask you about
Yep.
because you are the RSI guy. Um, let me
Thanks for
let
that.
me let me find that chart. Okay, so one other thing that I watch is, especially on the weekly chart, is I'm not an RSI trader like you are, with one major exception, and that is this 41, 42 level just historically has served as kind of an RS flip line on bull and bear markets for Bitcoin on the weekly chart. So at what price level um, would we be, let's call it 41 and a half, at what price level do you think 41.5 is on the weekly RSI on the Bitcoin chart?
Yep. Give me a second. Let me share
And if
my
you tell me if it
screen.
has confluence with that 69K, I'm not going to be surprised.
Okay. You say 41 point.
41, go 41.5
Okay.
RSI.
Just bear in mind that we haven't crossed 44 in the cycle yet. So
I
we
understand.
held. So let me find 45. Let's actually do it with the reverse one. And let's use this 41.5.
Hmm.
And that is, it's not that low. Let me see if I did it right. 41. No, it's not that low.
Where is it?
It's
It's at 76.
76. It's only 76. We need to
Okay.
really go a lot lower. And I think we've been already there. We've been already there because we at some point in intra candle when we were dumping, of course we were below this line and we were talking about, we say we are below support on the weekly and on the monthly, which was mind-blowing to be on a February on topping year below weekly support and monthly support. But you know, so far we're still
Right.
dodging that bullet.
It's held so far. So for me, that kind of changes. Well, it doesn't change, but it gives me more. I would say more conviction about this 76 level than it does the 69 level, because if we breach that 41 and we get a close below 40, you know, that 41 level on the weekly RSI,
Mhm.
I think that paints a pretty bearish story. Whereas a bounce from this 76 level would respect that level on the RSI and be a fabulous place to.
One thing that we can do is, because people, when they think about RSI values, they think, okay, that's the final stop, right? but RSI tracks the closing price. It doesn't
Mhm.
track the low. Therefore, in theory, you could pierce 69K, come back up in a couple of days within
Right.
intra-candle
Absolutely.
weekly, and come back to 77 and close at support, and everybody's happy. You know, not the longs that get liquidated, but
Right. So if you're thinking of playing that trade and automating that trade on the RSI, it's not to buy when price crosses below 41 on the RSI. The buy would be when price crosses back above, right? Then you're moving back
Mm,
up.
yeah. And you mean in an intra-candle. So basically, you
Right.
pierce it, you wait, you put a delay, you wait, and when you spend enough time below and you come back up, something like that.
Yeah.
It could
Yep.
be. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Okay, let me go back to the short-term TA, and let's see where we are at the moment. So on the 4 hour, we have this support in here. We talk about this support in the morning. That was 46. I think I call it 47 because I was thinking that we might take a little bit longer on Friday, maybe touch it, but we are still on Thursday. Since we went faster to this, we are meeting with 46 faster. So we need to move this support, and that is our 4 hour support, and that's the second line of defense. I call the first line of defense was this line at 90.6, and that level obviously got tested once. That was at 1 p.m. here in UK, and then we cross it, and now we're going for the second line of defense that at the moment is at a price of 87,252, and there's literally no fair value gap there. So if we went to that, on the other side, that's just gonna look like we're doing a due diligence here, another retest, and then we can still continue. If we close on a 4 hour basis like this, that's gonna look a lot worse. But can we do that? Yes, because we have some incentives to go beyond that level. And I'm gonna show you what's the incentive. So on the price, you meet with that line, and we just test support at 87,255. But if we go beyond that, we break the next orange line and we enter in this fat fair value gap that people were talking in the morning, asking me, are we going to get to the fair value gap of 85? Well, for that, we need first to break support on the RSI. And that could turn into another move to upside still, from around this area, because we are kind of going in a very rhythmic pace in here, doing kind of holding this support on the price. So if we go there to that fair value gap, I still don't consider it a bad entry, because this is kind of going in this direction at the moment. On the daily, it's a lot more interesting, because we just regained the previous range. So we cross it with a Trump pump. We came back down, but we put a higher low. And then is the second time that on a daily basis we close back inside the range. Our point of control is 97. It's been there for a while. And what we are doing today is we are hitting that RSI 50 I mentioned earlier, that resistance that is kind of the black and white on whether we are full on rally on the daily, or we are just coming in here to test resistance and then put a hopefully higher low on the daily too. Um, on the price action, what we are doing in here is just hitting that resistance and coming for a retest of the bottom of the range that is at 88,600. And if we hold that on a daily basis, it means that we are sticking around also on the RSI, very close to the resistance, to do potentially tomorrow in the crypto summit a breakout on the daily. And I want to see that. Hopefully, some people were sharing in the comments that there's some potentially positive news around the tariffs. If that remains like that, people might trade that. And I know that there's nothing necessarily that we can think of now that could pump the markets from what's going to be said there. But since I consider Trump really great at marketing things,
Mhm.
Sometimes marketing pumps and dumps too. We don't discard that. It's not political, okay? It's just a fact. It
Right, for
has
sure.
happened, and I'm not supporting or anything. Just saying the facts. So if he continues with this trajectory of being good at marketing, this could rally and enter into the breakout daily territory. So far, we are in the humble 4-hour breakout and trying to do whatever we can. But if we enter on the daily, things can get really interesting. In my opinion, that is not going to be the beginning of the fifth wave. Okay. Hopefully, I have to bite my tongue later and being wrong. But I think in here, I'm not expecting to get the number 5 on the daily. We have had 1, 2, 3, 4 in the whole bull market on the daily. If we pierce this, what it's saying is I'm ready to go for 5. Do I believe it's going to happen? No. Finger in the air? No. It's not for technicals. It's just my feeling. It's not going to be case. But, I can be wrong, just like many times I've been wrong in the past. But what do you think, Keith? You think tomorrow can really do a fifth wave, start a fifth wave in the market to top of the range? I'm talking about getting to at a size 80s on the daily. Like, let me
And
give
what is
you,
and what is that relative to price?
um, let's change this from 50. So, what are the highs that we did? This is in diminishing momentum levels. Number 1 went to 1991. Number 2 went to 88. 3 went to 87. 4 went to 87 again. So if this time we repeat the same thing, we go to 84. That's not bad. Let's see what's at in the price. This is pure hopium, by the way, okay? Pure hopium. So make sure that your doctor allows you to get that at this hour.
Right.
So that's
Yeah. Yeah,
165K.
right. You need to get a hopium vaccine. So
Yeah.
well, you can see right now that price is being suppressed. It's being pushed down um, into into that range, right? So you might get that. But what I do like about this is that we have some decent ladders of bid liquidity down to that, from that 70, actually below even that 76 range that we talked about, 75, 76. This is solid support up into this, 79, 80 range, which is got confluence with where that trend line is now, right? Where's the trend line now is sitting at 79, right? Just above 79. So I could see with that another retest of the trend and potentially even to close this gap. Now, and if that happens, obviously we want to see buying return and see that recovery without too much more degradation. We talked about the possibility of going down into this, these lower levels here from there. But
If that happened, Keith, I will
yeah,
be a little bit concerned. So if I fill my order, I will be a bit concerned, and I'm gonna tell you why. In the chart that you're showing, in the trading view one, you
okay,
just put a higher low. Okay, so
yep,
that is starting to build up on the sentiment, on the positive sentiment that we might get out of here, that we are going to have a V recovery, that we're going to put an, go to the top of the range, and all these, expectations from people. If now you take out the second higher low,
hmm
and you put a lower low, that is going to demolish the little bit of positive sentiment that we just built. And
we're
in
damned
that
if we do,
case,
we're damned if we don't, right?
yeah,
So yes, I think that there's a listen. So we know the higher low scenario is the bullish one that um, will influence sentiment. And a lower low would not be good. However, it could take us right to this flush that we talked about, right?
yeah,
Which would accomplish a number of technical things. It would fill this gap. Not that, and I don't think filling the gap is important. Okay. It's like I said before, I'm only interested in this gap because of the confluence it has with the trend. And an overshoot of those technicals, that's something common. We see it happen all the time, right? Just like we saw here, the 200 getting overrun. That could take us down here to where that, people are going to get scared. If this trend line gets broken, people are going to get scared. And algos are going to fire, right? So there's going to be some selling, and that could trigger a cascade into the 76 level. And like you said, the RSI might even dip lower, but recover by the weekly close. And so that's not a horrible scenario if we get the recovery, right? If you don't get the recovery, well, then it's over, right? But I don't think, just where we sit in the market, where we sit in the cycle right now, I just don't believe it's over.
Okay. So yeah, that's good to confirm. You basically, you feel like we're gonna get either a breakout from this bull flag, or you think there's gonna be a little bit more drawdown and sideways at the lower
Listen,
range before we.
with this freaking administration,
Mhm.
love them or hate them. Listen, there's a lot of good that's happening. There's a lot of not so good that's happening, but there is um, there's kind of a predictable pattern of behavior, and that predictable pattern is it's erratic. And so the normal things that a year ago we could say, hey, here's how the trend is working and here's what we expect to happen. Most, um, I would say, historically, anyways, presidents and treasurers and Fed chairs have not wanted to spook the market, and more importantly, they know that the market doesn't like uncertainty. And all of this FUD that we're seeing, by definition, is uncertainty,
Mhm.
because one day tariffs are on, the next day they're off. Then a week later, they're back on. And then the next day, well, we're going to pare some of them back. Okay. So this is a negotiating tactic. We get it. And the reciprocity, that's all fine, whatever. It's not cut and dry. It's not like, okay, tariffs are going to be here and they're here to stay, or tariffs are here and they're going to be on for X months until
Yeah.
this happens.
You,
It's
you know what I feel
whatever
like?
his mood is that day is what he's going to say.
I feel like my daughter is 1 year old, and I feel like the today I can predict better, my daughter than Trump tomorrow. I don't know
Right.
what he's gonna say.
Right.
It's impossible. He might say, yeah, we're good to go, or maybe not. And again, it's not political. It is a fact. I cannot predict it. I could be the huge, biggest fan, but it's a fact. It's difficult to trade that thing, and that's why I I I I, I have to step down in the time frames, or step up depending on how you interpret it, but go to higher time frames. Let's keep it simple, to to
Yeah.
to, to really see the big picture in here, because everything that is going on, it used to be 4 hour time frame, the noisy, or the 1 hour. Nowadays the daily is the noisy. Look at that chart in the daily. You pierce the bottom, you come back, you reclaim on a daily basis, and then you
Yeah.
lose it again, and then you
Yeah.
put candles up and down. It's just all over the place.
So,
You
right.
have
But
to
so,
trade the
but that's
weekly.
right. So listen, it's the difference between investing and trading, right?
Yeah.
If you are a long-term investor, zoom out
Yeah.
and block out the noise. And you should probably get off of crypto Twitter. Um, and you can come visit Mariano on YouTube. Uh,
I still like Twitter, and I use it, for seeing what other people think. But I tend to apply a huge filter, and as soon as I'm feeling that I'm getting biased with something anyone says, anyone, the best trader ever, I immediately hide that person, because I
Listen,
don't want to know what people think.
even the best traders don't get it right all the
Mm,
time.
yeah.
I don't consider myself anywhere close to being the best trader, and I can damn sure promise you I don't get it right all the time. I've had a painful last week was not good to me. My Bitcoin stuff trade very few alts, and I got I thought, and they went up, and then I got stopped out, right? Because I was trying to let them breathe and let them live, and didn't happen for me. But that's okay. I live to trade another day, right? And so if you're getting freaked out or overwhelmed by the volatility and how the news of the day affects price, then just focus on those key levels that we talk about, right? Where, I mean, we've been here, we've been talking about the 21-day moving average and the 200 and et cetera, and all the death crosses, whatever. Listen, the key things that have to happen on the chart to get back to price discovery, to get back to all-time highs. Number one, we have to RS flip the 2025 open. Okay. Can't get there before we get through the 21-day moving average, but this is the one that's important, right? You can see we had a fake out on the 21, but a rejection. So this is the line that's important. And then beyond that, so you asked if I think there's going to be a V-shaped recovery. I think this what appears like it could be a V is probably a fake out, and we're going to go back down and test this. And I think there's going to be some consolidation until the market feels comfortable with whatever, either is comfortable with what's coming out of the administration or realizes this guy's just going to pull the puppet strings every week. So let's just get back to doing what we do. And so the other key level is 100K, right? We haven't actually
Psychological. Yeah.
Right. It's psychological. It's psychological until we actually had some candles above it. And we had very few daily candles actually live above 100K. Certainly not a week's worth. And in fact, there have been precisely 0 weekly candles rather, that have lived above 100K without a wick below. And so, in my opinion, we need to consolidate out of this range. And I don't care if we're chopping along the trend line. I'd be fine with that. And flip this 2025 open, which honestly, I'd like to see that happen, by the weekly close. That would be a bullish scenario, but we may not get it. And then we need to RS flip this 100K level and consolidate here, right? These straight consecutive huge candles are not sustainable over time, right? The correction happens, and this correction is one that we've called for ages and waited for, right? I've been saying for, over a year, hey, we're due for a 20 to 40% correction, and it hadn't materialized. And then finally we got, 18%, we got 15%, and we got 18%, and then we got 20%. This would get us down to that level. And where we sit right now from the all-time high is well within the range of historical corrections, post-halving, bull markets, right? We've now dipped less than 30%. It's 28% from the all-time high. If we went down to the 76K level, that's, notice that the 50-week moving average has confluence with that 75, 76 range that we talked about.
Yep.
That's a 31% correction.
And the all-time high from the previous cycle?
From the all-time high. And even if we went all the way down to this nasty 2021 top, we're still inside 40%. So, and there have been bigger, right? There's certainly been bigger than 40% corrections during bull markets. The last market, we had that mid-cycle top, right? And then that was like a 55% dump. Yep. So, and I actually think there's some similarity to what we're seeing right now versus this. So, is it possible that we're getting this right now or something similar to it right now? And then we'll get so that would allude to this being the mid-cycle top. It's possible.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, those are the things you can't validate until they've passed. So
yeah. And actually, on the weekly, there are some things resonating with that theory of having a second top later, but after a big flush to the downside. And that's why I'm a little bit, not a little bit, a lot more conservative than I used to be in year one and year two. Beginning, I mean, 2023, 2024, 2025, I'm a lot more conservative, just sizes of 10% and stuff like that, just
right.
to taste fresh blood every now and then, but making sure that if I really get it wrong, that I don't take any bullet for everything I've done, all the hard
And
work of these 2 years.
that is a really important lesson for anybody who's not reading between the lines. Position sizes are, um, in my opinion, one of the greatest ways to manage your risk. Right? I
Mhm,
told you that I dollar cost average my way into these dips, right? And I use tools. I have my mean reversion bot running that is, that's picking up incremental orders, and those are small ones. And sometimes I hold those, and sometimes I let the bot sell them. But even when I'm placing limit orders, right? I'm interested in this range, and you know, at this stage, this goes into my long-term hodl stack, right? So if I get another shot at this trend line, I'm not selling that, right? I'm going to hold that. And so um, I would buy, or I have bought all through this range, and I'm waiting for for that bottom, to get filled, which may or may not happen. And so by doing that, if price appreciates and then it retraces, I'm already in profit. I can at least protect, um, you know, maybe I give back a lot of returns by doing that, but I'm not losing money. Right. So I want to let it live, but I also don't want to I also don't want to give it back if it retraces. So I'll protect with a small, with a nominal gain in um, with a stop loss in profit rather than let it go south on me. Um, and sometimes that's burned me. I haven't been able to go back and buy lower, like I had hoped to, because I thought price was going to go lower. So that doesn't always pay off. That doesn't always pay dividends for me, but it's preserving my capital and preserving my portfolio. Because let's face it, it's hard. It's hard to watch, even if you have a fantastic um, average entry price, and I'm pretty happy with mine, um, because I'm sub 50K on my long term Bitcoin.
mhm.
Um, but that looks a lot better up here than when it is down here, right? My portfolio is down, but I still have a great entry. And even if we went to this 69K level, I still have a great entry.
Yep.
So, um, you know, when you dollar cost average that way, you can sell pieces. So what I tend to do is I sell my highest entries, right? So it may not be the one that's in the most profit, but it's just taking a little bit. It's taking a little bit of profit,
Mhm.
and then using that money to compound into the next trade.
Yep.
Whereas my lower entries, I'm still sitting on those.
Yep. And also something that people don't understand, and it might have come up from me as something like I'm bragging or something. Actually, it's not. It's just the way I trade at different stages of the bull market. So in the beginning, I took a lot more risk. I used much more leverage, much more exposure in the first year.
Hmm.
On the second year, I reduced that, and I always had some for DCA. So I divided my orders, and there was still risk of liquidation because I was thinking, yeah, middle of the bull market, we still have the topping year, so I'm gonna take advantage of that. And now the orders are smaller, but I'm still in the mindset of DCA. So I
Yep.
enter with 10%, then a 20, then a 30, and so on.
Hmm.
But eventually, when I suspect that we are too overextended, then I replace the DCA in mindset with just the stop lossing. and I just put the stop loss and I start riding. I try to get still the best entry I can. And once I get it and I'm in profit, I just trail it.
Right.
And that's why there hasn't been any loss. I mean, I say that in a video because I realized, when did I get the last loss?
So you
Because
run a trailing stop loss once you're in profit.
yeah, but I'm gonna
And
start doing.
what kind of buffer?
I have in my mind where are the levels. For example, in the recent trade where um, we started going into 91, I mentioned the 91 as the first conservative target. Then there is the 94. So if there were more levels, like 3 or 4, I do laddering. So I move the stop loss to break even and then to the
Mhm.
first level, and I'm chasing one level below. So if in case it retraces, worst case, I break even or I take the first level. If I also suspect that there's something smelling fishy where we are, I also decide to pull out and I just say, okay, I'm done.
Okay,
This,
so you're manually setting that trailing stop loss at your technical levels versus an
Yeah, no,
automated trailing stop loss that's going to
percentage.
slide.
No, I don't leave anything to percentage. Even if I was to trail, I will use in the past in my bots, and this is
Mhm.
not manual trading, but in my bots, I will just use ATRs or things that are
Right,
relative to the volatility of the
right.
coin to trail. Never ever use a 3% for everything.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Those always get wiped out quick.
No, no, those are the first ones to lose,
Yeah.
to close without the intention of closing, right? It just comes straight to your 3%, to your rounded numbers. This I'm gonna trail it with a 1%. Yeah, sure, that's gonna last 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And and most of us have learned that trick that the hard way. Hey, I'm noticing a couple comments. Rational Evidence is saying, "Wake up, folks! Any no tax on crypto is going to be bullish." Well, yes, it is, but that's already old news, right? And so this was already, um, so they said, leaked, but come on, it was a staged leak. Um, that from Eric Trump, that was likely a scenario, and a potential announcement for Friday. And so, does that become a buy the rumor, sell the news event? And I think the answer is probably so. Um, and even if they announce it again on Friday after the summit, it doesn't become tax law until it gets approved by Congress. Now, I do think that um, Trump's going to get everything he asks for by Congress because let's face it,
Hmm.
he owns Congress. So I'm there's no doubt in my mind that it will pass, but the bill may not come out as it goes in. In other words, there may be some revisions that say, "Hey, we're going to bring the stock market, we're going to bring equities into this as well." And then that would change the dynamic impact it has on crypto, in my opinion. As we said at the beginning of this, if this is exclusively for crypto, it's going to be huge. If it is shared with equities, then it's not going to have as big of an impact. And again, it's for long-term capital gains, as I understand it. So that's not going to have the same impact as what day traders and moon boys are looking for.
True. One final question before we close down. It's a cliche question. I just wonder, what is your upside potential leftover for this cycle?
Let me open a chart. Interesting. So I don't have this chart open at the moment,
I mean,
but let me
let me
go.
let me rephrase. So, in terms of price, I would
Uh-huh.
like to hear it. Or if you want, in terms of we are 80%, 99% done with the bull cycle, or 80%, or just 50%.
Well, I'm a range trader,
Hmm.
and so while I do have maybe some difficulty with long range forecasting,
Hmm.
Here's my rationale for where I think price goes. Um, you remember we have this cup and handle pattern that took
Yeah.
forever to develop, and it's beautiful. Oh, isn't that a good looking? I mean, come on. And the measured move on that is still gets us up here in this 122 to 125 range. Okay. And so what my kind of my glass ceiling is this long-term trend line, which let me auto this out so we can see it. This this is a long-term channel here from pretty much the beginning of time for Bitcoin. And we've fallen out of that channel. In the last bear market, we fell out of that channel for the first time ever.
And we
And
tested already.
and we've tested it. We've tested it, but we've not made it back in. And so that to me is the glass ceiling on price discovery. So if we zoom back into this chart, let's say we make it to this 122 to 125 range. Yes, I'm going to take some profit there. I'm not selling everything there, but I'm going to take some profit there because I got to be true to what I do. You'll notice that this last rejection came from the 1.618 fib extension,
Hmm.
right? And so look where the 2.6 is. The
Yeah.
2.618 has confluence with the trend line right about now. That's at 156K. And so it's level by level. If we can break this, depending on what that happens, that has to happen like this month to make it back into that channel, which I think that's a tall order. Although somebody in the chat posted that it was going to happen, on the 7th. I don't know where that number is. I see that number floating all over the internet today. If we can clear this, I mean, we could potentially grind up this forever and never make it back in and still get eventually to 7-figure Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But I look at this as level by level. Again, if we move beyond that 122 to 125 range and we can crack this, then my next target is the next fib extension. And that's around, 200. Where's that? 210. And that's how I'm playing it. What's your thought?
Can you show the timing of that? So, um, where do you place that? Because
Where do I
you
place that
mentioned,
in time?
yeah, not just the pricing, but the timing. I'm not. I don't mean it by the minute, but a range that you think is realistic. Because, for example, the
Ok-
150, you mentioned that it needs to touch the line, but it needs to be kind of a rushed move up to meet with the line immediately. Whereas the 200, unfortunately, I was covering the chart with our beautiful pictures, but that will be Q1 2026 or somewhere earlier than that.
Okay. Well, let's give a frame a frame of reference. Okay. These blue vertical lines are halvings.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and this is illustrating some of the huge dips we've had in bull runs, through, post halving. Um, look at how early we are in this cycle, right? And where's the next cycle? 2028. So I think that we're later in the year, whether it is Q3, somewhere between Q3 and Q4 this year, or maybe even to spring next year. I don't know. This is not my area of expertise. I think Ben Cowan, who is an expert in this area, I think he says doesn't he say somewhere between like August and October
You mean 2025?
potentially. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
What's
So,
what's what's your what's your
I mean,
assumption?
I mean, we have never finished so early. Uh, it's usually more towards October, November that we get that final pump. Um, in August, I'm trying to remember if we have any ending. It's usually end of the year or early in Q1 2026. That's kind of past performance,
Right.
and that's why some of my indicators are calling for this is it. Okay, I've got a few ones that are already saying it's expired. We completed the cycle, at least with the momentum.
That
We
says
can
that this is the top.
not for the price, but for the momentum. So from now, we start looking for potentially a last higher high that hits resistance in the momentum. I mean, I will have to expand on that probably with a full video, but um,
That's another show.
that's another show, and we're trying to wrap up. But I think there is a few of them that are saying we're already done, and there's a long list that says no, we still have to go. That's why I feel like we are like 80%. It's usually like that. You start piling up signals, and eventually you get to too many signals saying the same thing. And then if you want to say the opposite, you are the stupid, basically. And that's why at 73.5, I say, well, 80% of all the signals I have are saying get out.
Right.
My body says, I'm having such a great time, but it's usually like that. And you have to compromise.
Wait, that was last year? I remember you selling it like 70 in the 70s at some point. Was this
Yeah.
last year? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I say publicly, you can find the tweet, and it says I sold all my Bitcoin. I went absolutely degen because the signals were saying literally physically it's almost impossible to cross this. And well, I took the risk, and people slapped me the day after for having done that, saying that, are you crazy? This is
But where'd you
gonna
buy back in?
I started buying multiple times on all the megaphone pattern. You can watch all the series of videos. No, please don't do that to yourself. But you know, on all those videos, every time that we had a trading range and we were at the lows, we have an RSI 4 hour breaking out. We were calling for another rally up, and then we do another 20% up, and then crash again. And at some point, when we got into 49 and to the 53 low,
Yeah, we had this
I
double
I
bottom here. We had a double bottom at 53.
yeah, at that point I said, look, now the signals are saying, all of them, we bottom and we are going up. And the aggregated open interest was calling for a reversal up. Now the aggregated open interest is another signal that says we're going low. So none of the signals by themselves we can say, oh yeah, 100%, let's sell everything. But you start having an increasing list that it starts to get a little bit itchy. And that's why I reduce my positions. I'm not necessarily saying, no, I'm not gonna take part of this. I still profit, and it's decent profits, but it's no longer what it used to be before
Right.
when I was much more exposed. But at the same time, something tells me that my future self is going to thank me for taking this approach at this stage. um you know it's just a matter of then being able to go to sleep. After seeing so many charts for all these years, if I don't do that, I don't sleep because it itches me.
Yeah. I like that. I like that tweet, right? That comment right there. If you invest according to tweets of Trump's, you'll fail. Well, you can play those tweets.
Yeah,
You just need to know when to get out.
yeah.
And
Well, I
so,
I, I actually entered in a deal there, and when he started tweeting, and I just made sure that people were understanding what was the context of my bullishness. My context was, let's take profits from this. Okay, let's not write it like it's an endless thing that after he
exactly.
just says, okay, there's this positive, America's going to be amazing for this. Okay, let's take advantage of just what it is. It's a bullish tweet. What's the substance of that? Very little, and it's
Yeah.
going to
So,
fade
so
very quickly.
that translates into buy the dip, sell the rip.
Yep, very good. Should we close it there?
I
I'm
think that's
gonna have
that's probably a great place to close it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Keith, for joining me today, and let's do one more next month if you're okay.
Yeah, man, this is fun. We hadn't done it in a long time, so I enjoyed it thoroughly, and thanks to your audience. Global Hawk, thanks for the kind words. Appreciate that too. And
please
happy to do it again.
find the channel of Keith. If you can send me the link to your channel, and I'm gonna put it in the description of the video so people can find you, because I read some comments of people saying you just earn a follower, and I want to send you all the followers as well to you. And I'll see you next month, hopefully.
All right, sounds good, man. And there's my X, and on YouTube at
so that is X,
yeah,
or YouTube.
for
K
KA Productions is X, and KA
and
Pro Trading is YouTube.
And K Pro Trader. So the second comment is KA Productions, that's YouTube, and the previous one is Twitter, or the other
Yeah.
way around.
KA Productions is KA Productions is Twitter /X, and KA Pro Trading is YouTube.
Good one. Thanks so much, Kid.